Thank you for tuning in to the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. WDRB Media and WGIB, the soul of Charlotte. This is Meditate&Mingle, and I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Tate, a.k.a. Ms. Meditate&Mingle. I'm in the studio today, I guess, with my co-host for the month, Steve Robinson, the speaker, has joined me again today. Thank you for coming back.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for waiting for me to get here. I'm glad I made it.
It's all good. I'm glad you made it. So Steve and I have, you heard last Sunday, Steve and I have been talking about, all sorts of things. Last week we were talking about bullying and kind of, little dynamic that happens with parents and kids, advocating for your children, all sorts of things in the school system and kind of how to stay abreast with what's happening with your kids in the school. This week we have we're kind of a changing of the guard. We're going to be talking about toxic relationships. I came across this article. 13 ways.
Is 13 or 15?
13.
Oh, okay.
Yes, 13 signs. It probably is 15. We can probably make up another couple that didn't make the list. 13 signs you're in a toxic relationship and it's ruining your life. And I sent this to Steve, and he's like, oh, wow, yeah, we need to talk about that. So I'm glad you made it back in. So what did you think? What was your first impression of the article?
Well, it made some sense. I think that the way that people view relationships now, it can be very toxic. Not only so much as toxic for, the relationship aspect, but just toxic for your life in general, as far as what you're working on, what you're trying to work towards. So I think I think it's a good topic to discuss.
And you, as a motivational speaker, you often talk about how you have to be careful about who you have in your inner circle, who you surround yourself with, who you associate yourself with. That seems to be a pretty poignant topic in your conversations. Yes,
and so therefore, if you're in a toxic relationship, it is so much going to affect everything outside of it. Mm-hmm. Your relationship, if you're in a relationship at home, however it may be, marital or whatever, that if it's toxic there, it's definitely going to affect you on the outside, mm-hmm. and that can hold you up from a lot of other things in life.
Absolutely. It's like you carry around that weight, that baggage with you, that negative energy from arguing with your wife or significant other at home, and then
right.
You take it to work and you barking orders at people, and you're like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. Like, what I do?
I think that goes back to respect and honor. Mm-hmm. I know that number 2 was talking about jealousy and the blame game, but it goes back to honor. If you don't honor the person you with, it doesn't matter what's going on. If you don't have a certain value or a certain respect for yourself or core values that you won't change no matter what, then it's not going to matter what's going on. You're basically just going through the motions, as they say, just living a part of it. And that's very toxic and can spill over.
Honor is such a strong word. I mean, people always say, I feel disrespected or you disrespecting me. But at the base of that is honor. And it's how you view someone in a way that garners respect.
Right. With that said, as far as with how honor goes, what do you honor? What do you respect? But that would go back to the beginning of the relationship. Why did you get into that relationship? If you didn't know that, I don't think that everyone, I don't know the studies or statistics, but does everyone actually go through a phase or a process where you ask certain questions to see what a person's values is? It's no need to everything is great on the surface and we're dating, we're going out, we're having a great time, but didn't realize that you don't value this or you don't respect that. So when I bring it up or when she brings it up, that's a whole nother ballgame now, but we didn't address that in the beginning. So now you're 3, 4, or you've had intimate relationships. And I think when we say the word intimacy, it's not just sexual. Like intimacy is so much bigger than that. So we get caught up in saying intimacy means you have sex. No, that there's so much more to it.
Absolutely.
And if you've crossed that intimacy boundary and you haven't honored things or found out if that person honored you, then you're in a world of trouble. Then that's when you start, I guess, going on Facebook telling people what happened to you.
Absolutely. And last month, a couple months ago, back in February, I talked about different phases of the relationship. With phase 1 being the romantic phase where you're kind of laughing and giggling and everything he does is cute and oh girl, he thought it was cute, that I was doing X, Y, and Z or I wore this little dress and he got a little jealous, kind of laughing. It's kind of funny. Then you hit that second phase where it's not so cute anymore. It makes you feel uncomfortable. It brings up a lot of arguments and and all sorts of things. And you're right. If you don't take the time in the beginning to really get to know each other before that intimacy barrier is crossed, not just sexual, but also emotional intimacy. There's also financial intimacy. There's just interpersonal intimacy. There's knowing your family and how you feel about your family. There's knowing my family and how I feel about my family, and how we feel about each other's family. All that stuff gets really tangled and complicated, and it's not so cute anymore.
Well, that's true. You know, my mother used to always tell me, when you're talking to someone, you're not just talking to them, you're talking to how they were raised.
Absolutely.
So you got to understand, you got to know what type of family they come. Do they come from a family that showed love? You know, did their parents tell them they loved them? Were they treated? How were they treated? So all of those with how you were raised is coming into that relationship as well. And when you don't try to find out, but then it goes back to, what is your motives? I mean, what is your purpose? A lot of times I ask, you know, when I talk to different people with getting into the life coaching and things like that, it's like, what is your purpose? Like, what is the whole reason that you want to be in the relationship that you are in? And it's not just with, you know, your female relationship, but that could be, you know, whether it be a business relationship. What is your purpose? Like, what are you here to get?
What's your end game?
Are you there to give something? Are you there to give? I mean, what's the motive?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why do you do what you do?
That's a good point. That's a good point. I saw this. It was a sermon by Creflo Dollar, and it was called "What Is Your Motive?" Oh, wow. And how you ask that up front in your relationship with people before you know whether you're going to move on. Right. What is your motive? Were you just trying to have sex? You just trying to get married one day? Like, what's going on in your life? What are you trying to get from my life? Why am I valuable to you? What is it that you see in me? Like, all these questions that you ask up front to try to figure out, and it's so hard because honesty is a big one. Honesty is a big one because people, they say you bring your representative to the beginning of the relationship. You send your representative to put on a good face and put on a good show, and you say all the the things that you think they want to hear because you just want to be liked. You just want to be loved.
And well, the things that I think that we're discussing, the toxic part of this, the topic of being in toxic relationships, which means you're already in there. The things that we're discussing is great because it's like, those are the things you should do beforehand. Yeah. Do we do them? No. Because you don't know where someone is in their life right now. So maybe they've not been in a relationship, or maybe they want to get in a relationship. So they're not thinking, yes, it sounds good that I hear you saying I should go ask these questions and do them. But right now, for whatever reason, I'm ready to get into this. So I'm ready to do that. And so you jump into it without asking these. And of course, then it becomes the 13 signs of, I'm sure you can go to 90 signs that you're in a toxic relationship.
Absolutely.
But until you decide to know yourself, because what I had to learn, even, going through what I've been through in life, you have to know who you are first.
Absolutely.
And that's scary. And I mean, and sometimes you can get to, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old and still not know. You may have thought you knew who you were, but until you get put into a situation, you really don't know who you are. So I guess it goes back to that integrity or being honest with yourself from the beginning before you get involved with someone else.
Absolutely. I had a conversation, one of my clients, middle-aged gentleman, mid-40s or so, and he said, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up. Wow. I thought that was like really powerful. He's married, he's got children, he's in a career, and he said, I'm still trying to figure it out. And so to go back to your point of who are you, and how can you fully grow in your relationship or even as an individual if you don't really have a goal in mind.